So welcome back to part 4 of my violin repair series. Um, this is about how I French polished the violin. So you can see the violin the body has no finish on it right now, and I spent a bit of time using just alcohol and stripping off the original shellac, and I also used really fine sandpaper just to um, try to smooth everything out. There's a few little spots that I don't think I'd really be able to get down to just because of the previous abuse to the violin, but for the most part it's all totally smooth and really fine. I used really fine, about 1,000 grit sandpaper to make sure that that it was ready to take the new shellac. Now you can kind of tell that the wood is kind of greenish, and it's just aged. It's probably from just time and ultraviolet light and oxygen and whatever hitting it. And the new little replacement part on the F hole doesn't really match because I used new spruce with that, and I later read that it was possible to quickly age wood by suspending it like in a jar of ammonia, and that would kind of make the yellowish go away and turn more toward your grayish, greenish tone. And if I ever did this again, I'd try to age the wood to make it look a little bit more like a match. And so you can see I have some shellac there, which I'm putting on a little pad. And inside the pad, I actually used an old cut-up t-shirt. And the outside is just some cloth that my wife used to use for quilting. And it's nice because it really doesn't give off any lint. So up in, you can see in the little jar there, the shellac is a medium cut of shellac. I used pure grain alcohol in order to make the shellac, and let it sit for a few days to dissolve, and slowly stirred it a little bit, and it was totally dissolved. And for the oil, I just put a little dab of oil on the pad after I put the shellac in it, and it's just just a little bit on the outside, very little, and you can kind of get a feel for it. I haven't ever done this before. This is the first time I've ever tried to French polish, and so you can kind of get a feel for it, how much it was grabbing, I guess, against the surface. And anyway, I really did kind of dial it in later on when I was doing this. Okay, I pretty much have the top first just initial coat done, so I'm starting on the back now just to get a real base coat of this shellac on there. And this actually takes quite a bit of time. I'm putting it on really thick. Later on I go really thin, and it really starts to gloss up when I use ultra thin layers. And I spent quite a bit of time polishing it. This is just the initial base coat, like I said. So I was just trying to get the initial coat on there. I think it was okay to kind of go a little bit thick with it because I really start polishing it later, and I just wanted to get one slight layer across the whole top and bottom plate. So it took a little bit of time for me to figure out exactly how much oil versus how much shellac I needed in the pad. And you kind of can squeeze the pad, and it tends to force out a little bit more as you're polishing. The one thing that I noticed was interesting is that pretty much almost instantly when you're doing the circles, that it's dry. I mean, right after you come off of it, you'll see kind of a little ghostly whisper of the oil disappear, and it's dry to the touch. So it's really interesting how fast that dries. Wow. So at this point you can probably tell it's not a high gloss finish, it's more of a satin or a semi-gloss, and later on it will, with just the really light polishing with very thin amounts, will bring it to that a high gloss. Like dries almost. It's interesting how different the two colors of wood are here. Okay, so I've done 2 coats on the top and it's starting to get really glossy. I'm going to do a second coat on the back. I'm using just an absorbent tissue, little towelette. Put it inside a lintless cloth, and then I just take basically on my fingertip just a little dab of oil and then just kind of rub it on the top, and that helps it glide around. And I'm just so surprised how well this method works to put a finish on. I've never done a French polish before, and it's just amazing how glossy it gets and how quick it gets that way. So I just keep polishing here. I can kind of see the oil just kind of disappear off behind after it leaves a little spot of the shellac. Just kind of buffing it in little circles. Once it kind of starts grabbing, and I know it's about time to either put a little bit more oil or a little bit more shellac on there. I think we're at that point. I've been dipping it a little bit in just directly in the shellac, and it doesn't seem to matter, or applying it directly to the pad inside. But I think each stroke lays down a little deposit of the shellac, and the more you do it, the more it keeps buffing up and getting glossier and glossier. It's just crazy how deep it starts looking, and it has to be just a super thin layer. You can see how glossy it's getting already. So I don't know which angle is the best, but here's one coat. This is just what I've been doing here, so you can see how it's starting to look deep already. And I'm going to start working on this side now. It's just so smooth, it's crazy. Silky smooth. It's just like, feel this. It's crazy, dude. Do you see how thin? I mean, how thin is this? How thin is this coat? It's already dry.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing I've ever done. I mean, with woodworking or whatever. I mean, I'm finishing. This is just insane. Just a little oil on it. Okay, I'm gonna reload. Put a little oil on the tip. Start working these areas. Kind of going back and forth, blending it in where I've been, where I'm going to. It looks like it's almost a mile thick, but I know it can't be. It's just a micron thick on there. It's crazy. It's about time to reload the little pad here, but it is getting really luxurious looking and so glossy. It's crazy. Like a mirror. I have a feeling that violins that are painted aren't to the same quality of ones that are French polished. Now this is just a practice for me, but it's already making this violin look so much better than what it was.
I'm really pushing on the pad, try to force some of the shellac out to the surface so that it's kind of on the inside of it and pushes it through the pad to the outside.